Opinion SCO or Strategic Complicity Organization. India's fight against double standards. The recent Shanghai Cooperation Organization SCO meeting held in Qingdao, China, on June 25 to 26, 2025, once again exposed the deepening strategic nexus between China and Pakistan and their growing antagonism towards India. The meeting concluded without a joint communique after India refused to endorse a final statement that excluded any reference to the April 22 Pahalgam terror attack in Jammu and Kashmir, which killed 26 innocent civilians. New Delhi had insisted on including the attack, which was claimed by the Resistance Front TRF, a proxy of the Pakistan-based Lashkar-e-Taiba. However, Pakistan, with China's tacit backing, blocked any mention of it mirroring an earlier episode at the United Nations Security Council on April 30, where Pakistan and China successfully lobbied to remove TRF's name from an official UNSC statement. Despite credible intelligence linking TRF to the attack, and the group itself claiming responsibility via a social media post, the final UNSC statement was deliberately diluted. Pakistan's foreign minister, Ishaq Dar, even publicly admitted that Islamabad had pushed for the exclusion of TRF's name in an act that indirectly confirms Pakistan's awareness and complicity of the group's involvement. These actions reveal a deliberate and coordinated strategy by China and Pakistan, with Beijing actively shielding Islamabad, a state sponsor of terrorism, against India from international accountability. By obstructing efforts to address cross-border terrorism and weakening multilateral counter-terrorism mechanisms, they pose a direct threat to India's national security and diplomatic interests. China's military support for Pakistan extends far beyond diplomacy. Since at least 2018, Beijing has been sharing real-time satellite-based ISR intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance data with Islamabad. China has integrated its ISR networks with Pakistan's, deploying defense satellites and assisting in reorganizing Pakistan's radar and air defense systems. During Operation Sindoor in May 2025, launched in the aftermath of the April 22 Pahalgam terror attack, China not only supplied intelligence on Indian targets but also reportedly helped redeploy Pakistan's radar coverage to better monitor Indian military movements. According to strategic analyst Iqbal Chand Malhotra, this joint ISR and missile cooperation underscores a calculated shift toward integrated defense coordination to counter India, reaffirming that China views Pakistan as an extension of its strategic depth. Pakistan's Defense Minister Khawaja Asif confirmed the intelligence sharing arrangement, calling it very normal given the regional security climate. Supporting this, a research group under India's Ministry of Defense noted that China's satellite capabilities and technical expertise significantly enhanced Pakistan's ability to detect Indian deployments. Additionally, Pakistan deployed Chinese-made PL-15 air-to-air missiles during the skirmish. Although these were intercepted by Indian defense systems, the deployment of these advanced missiles, likely including the export variant PL-15E mounted on J-10C and JF-17 fighter aircraft, demonstrates the deepening military interoperability between the two nations. Now, in a deeply alarming development, China is preparing to supply Pakistan with fifth-generation fighter jets at a 50% discounted rate. This is not a routine defense sale. It reflects Beijing's intent to further militarize Pakistan and destabilize India's strategic balance. Clearly, China considers Pakistan an extension of its strategic apparatus in South Asia, using it as a proxy to counter and constrain India. Beijing pursues a comprehensive and integrated strategic approach. It uses every tool available, diplomatic, military, and economic, while leveraging allies like Pakistan to systematically box India into the South Asian theater. India, however, has often made the mistake of treating these threats in isolation, formulating separate defense strategies for China and Pakistan, when in fact they are increasingly acting as one coordinated entity. India's Defense Minister Rajnath Singh, refusing to sign the SCO communique, made a decisive stand, reviewing the document carefully on-site and rejecting superficial commitments to anti-terrorism. Footage from the summit shows Singh intently studying the document, clearly aware of the diplomatic trap laid for India. Singh stated firmly, terrorism in all its forms and manifestations, including its cross-border nature, should be condemned in clear terms. There should be no place for double standards in dealing with terrorists. He further warned that some countries use cross-border terrorism as an instrument of their state policy and provide shelter to terrorists. These states should be held accountable. These pointed remarks were widely interpreted as a clear rebuke to Pakistan and its enabler, China. Unfortunately, some voices within India have mischaracterized this as a failure of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's foreign policy. Such interpretations are misplaced and fail to account for the broader strategic context. The current global environment is far more complex, with China and Pakistan actively coordinating to undermine India's interests, making diplomacy increasingly challenging. China, emboldened by its global ambitions, is using Pakistan as a strategic weapon against India. The SCO, hosted by China, reflects this imbalance. India cannot control the behavior of adversarial states, especially when the host country is itself complicit. This blatant double standard exposes their coordinated agenda and willingness to manipulate multilateral platforms for geopolitical gains. Critics must understand that India's foreign policy does not operate in a vacuum, nor is New Delhi the sole actor on the global stage directing the actions of others. On a geopolitical landscape marked by shifting alliances, asymmetric threats, and strategic deception, many external variables remain beyond India's control. What truly matters is that India continues to assert its national interests, reject duplicity, and hold accountable those who attempt to whitewash terrorism under the pretext of regional cooperation. China continues to peddle diplomatic slogans like the Shared Asian Century, the Dragon Elephant Dance, and the Russia-India-China RIC framework. However, these lofty ideas are consistently contradicted by its actions shielding Pakistan-based terrorists, arming Pakistan with advanced military hardware, and obstructing regional cooperation on counter-terrorism. From betraying Nehru in 1962 despite the Hindi-Chini bye-bye rhetoric to the deadly Galwan Valley clash in June 2020, where 20 Indian soldiers were martyred, China has repeatedly acted in bad faith, even while professing partnership and regional unity. China's primary objective remains clear: to contain India's rise, limit its strategic space, and ensure that New Delhi remains preoccupied with continental security challenges rather than expanding its maritime influence in the Indian Ocean. Even if the border dispute between India and China were to be resolved, the underlying geopolitical and geostrategic rivalry would persist, as both powers are rising within the same strategic space and their spheres of influence overlap. Those who dismiss the relevance of spheres of influence in contemporary geopolitics should reflect on recent history. Russia's invasion of Ukraine was driven by its perception that NATO was encroaching on its strategic space. Similarly, China's use of Pakistan and other regional actors to counterbalance India is a clear manifestation of this thinking in the South Asian context. Beijing's worldview is rooted in realpolitik, shaped by centuries of geopolitical thought and strategic tradition, including the oft-cited belief among Chinese strategists that two tigers cannot live on the same mountain. The Belt and Road Initiative BRI, for instance, is more than an infrastructure project. It embodies China's ambition to reshape global power structures and extend its influence across continents. It reflects not only a deep pride in China's strategic heritage but also a long-term vision for global leadership. The very raison d'etre of the SCO counterterrorism has come under serious question. Despite housing a dedicated anti-terrorism mechanism known as the Regional Anti-Terrorist Structure RATS, the SCO today is dominated by China and Pakistan, both of whom routinely block any attempt to acknowledge or act against terror groups targeting India. This contradiction has undermined the credibility of the organization. As External Affairs Minister S.J. Shankar recently pointed out, India wanted a reference to terrorism in the outcome document of the Defence Ministers' meeting, but it was not acceptable to one country. He further stated, "If you can't get everybody to agree on something as basic as terrorism, then it calls into question what the SCO stands for." India joined the SCO in 2017, largely at the invitation of Russia, which at the time aimed to balance China's growing dominance within the organization. However, since the Russia-Ukraine war, Moscow has become increasingly dependent on Beijing, and its ability to counterbalance China within the SCO has significantly diminished. As a result, China and Pakistan have consolidated their influence, often sidelining India's interests. Nevertheless, India continues to actively engage bilaterally with Central Asian countries and does not rely solely on the SCO framework. The organization remains one of several platforms for regional diplomacy, and India views it as part of a broader and diversified engagement strategy with Eurasia. India must stop viewing the China-Pakistan axis through fragmented lenses. These two countries are acting in coordination to constrain India's rise and dilute its strategic autonomy. New Delhi must adopt an integrated strategic doctrine to confront this dual threat. China's diplomatic overtures, be it talk of shared prosperity, Asian solidarity, or multilateral dialogue, must be scrutinized against its actions. India must forcefully and clearly convey that Beijing's consistent use of Pakistan to pursue its anti-India agenda is unacceptable. China's protection of destabilizing non-state actors, defense proliferation, and ISR integration with Pakistan directly undermine India's security and sovereignty. Swipe left for next video. The road ahead requires strategic clarity, national unity, and a willingness to call out hypocrisy on the global stage. As India's stature continues to grow, its neighborhood will become increasingly challenging, particularly with hostile nexuses like that of China and Pakistan working in tandem. It is time India acknowledged this reality and acted accordingly. Imran Khurshid is Associate Research Fellow, ICP's, New Delhi, and Adjunct Research Fellow, Peninsula Foundation. Views expressed in the above piece are personal and solely those of the author. They do not necessarily reflect NEWS18's views. Latest blogs.